And so through some kind of miracle, I got a job working as a DBA, and decided that was going to be the way I was going to go. I learned as much as I could about it, and I came in as a junior DBA, and it was so slow when I first did this. There was not a whole lot of work going on, so I started to just learn and learn and learn. And one of the big key things I really attribute my career to was answering questions in the forums. So somebody would post a question in the forum. They would say, I would say, I don't know the answer to that. Let me go dig up the answer to that. So it became essentially like a long, 6-month-long interview, right? When somebody's asking a question, you don't know the answer, you go find the answer, post it, or post a link to an article. And I started posting articles on different websites out there at the time. And eventually, there was a consultant that was sitting across from me at my cube, and he was writing a book. And we went out to lunch one day, and he said, hey, you want to write this book with me? You'd be surprised. It sounds like, authors always make it sound like it's a big deal to write a book. But you'll be surprised that young guy in the middle there, the consultant was the guy on the left there, Mark Chafin, who's now a CIO. It's really not that hard to get into writing a book. It's hard to actually write the book. So at the time, though, I was 22 years old, 24 years old, something like that, and was able to, spend the hours to whip up the book. Nowadays, with 4 kids, it's a whole different animal. But one book ultimately led to, creating SQL Server Central to promote it, and then ultimately led to writing. I'm at book 15 right now. But my big tenet in life is really to learn through teaching. You teach others, you're going to learn a lot. It helps build your brand up, and it kind of builds this really nice process. So let's take you back to you now. All right, so that's my little myself. The rest of the session is all about how does that apply to you. Well, if you're at a fork road or at a spot where you're trying to figure out which direction to go, essentially, life in general is we want to, when we go into bet on certain technologies, we might as well go to the horse races, right? And each technology, we have to kind of look in the future, maybe 5 years, and guess, am I betting on the right horse right now? And that's essentially what our careers all boil down to. If I invest my whole heart into being a production DBA, is that going to be outsourced someday? Or an exchange person? So those kind of things are things we kind of think about long term. So the great question, though, is am I pursuing the right technology? Well, one of the cool things to just kind of bring up real quick is Microsoft has over multi-decade career here, is now SQL Server is now in over 100,000 companies that we've identified. Microsoft, if you ask Microsoft how many people actually have SQL Server, they don't exactly know 100%, but we've identified here at Pragmaticworks over 100,000 companies in our system that are using SQL Server. So you're betting on a technology that is pretty well out there. There's also the licensing cost. This was driving the factor is the licensing cost about 70% less than the competing technologies. So if you're going to bet on a horse, it's a good horse to bet on. The other thing is that the technology is essentially, they keep on leapfrogging each other, right? So in my top right quadrant right there, it's showing that the technologies are similar enough to where companies are comfortable to saying it comes down to price. So again, if you're really betting on somebody, the cool thing I think is that technology constantly changes. So I thought about putting like rampant dirty pictures in my slide deck, but I thought one way to kind of wake you guys up from my long bio there was to show you one of the things they announced today. Now, one of the things announced today, just to show you how cool what we do is and how sexy BI is to show you one of those neat new technologies called GeoFlow. And I'll just hop out real quick, and I've got this data that you're seeing right here, which is earthquake data. Now, this was announced today. It actually is available now for those in Office 365 today. So, in those that are off-premise, and this, I'm obviously using Office 2013, Excel 2013. What I have is a whole bunch of earthquake data, and with lats and longs, and some depth of the earthquakes, and some magnitudes. If I go up to Insert and go to Map, you'll see Launch GeoFlow. Now I'm going to hit this New Tour button. It's going to launch the GeoFlow application, and you can see I basically spin it with my finger here. Let me kind of close this here. I can apply a certain theme to it. There we go. Oh, that's not a nice theme. Let me go this one right here, for example. Now the neat thing is if I'm interested in the BI space, our world is changing every 18 months or so. This application wasn't even at a Microsoft developer's whiteboard even 18 months ago. And now it's released to production as of today, literally today. So I want to look at some lat longs, I'm going to hit the Map It button. But look at other things we can base this on. Some street addresses, zip codes, other kinds of addresses, and those kind of things. If I hit Map It, you'll see it's actually combing through my data. You'll see processing down below. It's processing all that data, and it's going to put a point in the map for every single earthquake that's happened in the United States since the 1970s, and actually worldwide also. So you see it's combing through about 400,000 rows. And I'm also going to say, well, show me the magnitude of the earthquakes. I'm going to check this box here, magnitude, and I'll say, give me a heat map of that. So in this just 2-minute demo, what I wanted to show you here was just where is our world going? How sexy is our world? I mean, it's really pretty amazing that we get to look at this big data change, big movement where our whole world is changing about every 18 months. Like, my Excel just blew up. I'm running the pre-beta here. So it's going to blow up here in a second. But you see, you get the idea. It's a really cool tool. I've never had that blow up before, but we'll go ahead and go with it now. But I'm running the pre-beta there. So the nice thing is our world is changing so frequently. And here's really the positions that you can go into. Now, if you're new in the career, the report writer, the width, so what we're looking at here, the width of the pyramid is essentially the number of positions that are out there. And the height of the pyramid is the salaries that are out there for you. Now, I put salaries in here based on the Jacksonville, Florida market, which is a completely different market, of course, than San Francisco. I mean, you can almost take this and go up by 80% in San Francisco sometimes. But also the standard of living is different as well. The cost of living is different also. So if I look at this and I say, okay, I want to be a report writer, what kind of salary can I make? As a good starting point, you're probably making about $40,000 to $65,000 is generally where a report writer is going to cap out in our industry. But like any pyramid, ideally you want to start to grow up, kind of go up that pyramid. So one of the things you can do is you can also go over here and say, well, as a report writer, a great segue could be to be the person that kind of talks to the technology side, talks to the business side, and become a business analyst. You know, if you don't want to go become an ETL person or a DBA, then go becoming a business analyst. There's some great business analysts out there that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and some that are starting in the 40s, 50s. So business analyst is a great segue if you're looking at your career at a fork in the road, and whether you want to become more intimate with the business or whether you want to become more intimate with the technology. So if we decide the technology route, then a great one could be a development DBA or a BI DBA. Well, in this case, you're looking at about starting in the 50s and going to the 90s. Now, again, of course, there's hiring patterns all over the map here. You might find somebody willing to pay you $140 for that position.